Thank you, conference. It is wonderful to see you, lovely people, and incredible to have the opportunity to introduce myself to you as our parliamentary candidate in my hometown of Eastbourne, which is officially the sunniest town in the UK. More hours of sunlight than anywhere else in our country. And it is an honour to be part of an incredible team of blue wall seat candidates fighting to take the Conservatives down at the next election. And my goodness, what a job we have. These three have been responsible for endless lies, incompetence, and much, much more. Folks, we need something different, radically different. So I'm going to try and put my money where my mouth is in my presentation style. And I'm going to try and ditch the lectern and instead do a presentation in the form of a pecha kucha. Now, pecha kucha is a Japanese term that literally means chit-chat. But in practice here, it's a series of 30 images, each on the slide, that move automatically after 30 seconds. So it means I'm going to be bang on my 15 minutes just for you. It also means, though, I'm going to need to keep up, and it's a race against the clock. An additional thing it means is that if you need to heckle or even applause, I need you to park it to the very, very end, because the slides haven't got any time for it. So I'm going to start with a story of something different. And it is about these two on the screen, and the little boy in the middle, Hezekiah and Elizabeth. They're from Lagos, and they moved to London in the 60s to study at university. And a practice that was pretty common for African and Caribbean families at that time was shipping your kids out to go and live with white families, often in seaside towns. It was referred to as farming. And they shipped their eldest child, farmed their eldest child, out to Eastbourne. And the foster mother, it's a kind of private fostering arrangement, was pushing a pushchair around with a black baby in it. And people across Eastbourne in the 60s were thinking, what on earth is going on here? And someone went to ask the question. And the foster mother explained the farming story. And the response was, I want one. And so she said, well, that's very interesting because the mother of this child is pregnant. And they might want to enter into the same kind of arrangement. So let me make a call and see what we can do. And cut a long story short, that baby ended up being farmed out to Eastbourne as well. That baby was my dad. And that interaction happened on a road called Kingston Road in Hampden Park in Eastbourne, which elected Eastbourne's first ever councillor of black heritage 2 years ago. And that was me, conference. Now, I tell that story as a tale of what Eastbourne is truly about. Yes, Eastbourne's got a reputation for being a bucket and spade kind of tourist and hospitality town, but more profoundly, we are a town, Eastbourne, of multiculturalism, of tolerance, of real hospitality and real welcome. All of these are core traditions to the town, liberal traditions, and that's why I love my town. And that conference is why I am a liberal. Now, for some people, that isn't enough. I've had people say, but is Josh really Eastbourne? Or is he a British national, I got the other day? And when people say that, I say, challenge accepted. Who was born in Eastbourne District General Hospital? I was. Who won the cutest baby competition in Eastbourne in 1993 with that very photo? I did. And who was taught as a supply teacher by the current Conservative MP for Eastbourne? It was me. But something that really entrenched my liberalism is my working with young people in the East End of London, supporting them away from crime and towards employment. In conference, I work with young people who would say, Josh, I would deal drugs or steal bikes and use the cash I make to slip secretly into my mum's handbag week after week. These are young people who felt backed into Crime's Corner, conference, and that is not the mark of a liberal society that I think that we should be living in. And I think, for me, what was really, really pertinent, what made a lot of sense to me about the ways that many of these young people were acting, what really I related to was that we had some similar life experiences in our childhoods. No brushes with the law for me, but some of the young people came from really difficult home backgrounds, and so did I in some respects. At home, my mum and dad split up when I was young. They're both wonderful people. My mum's since remarried to a wonderful stepdad I have now. But in between, home was not always safe. Domestic violence was a common feature at home, abuse of all sorts. But I was lucky in that I had an incredible family who loved me. I had amazing teachers who believed in me. Some of them now deliver my leaflets. I also had an incredible community in Eastbourne that lifted me. But conference, what was super unfair about that, compared to the young people in gangs who I was working with, who had very similar experience at home, is that I was lucky enough to have the great community that rallied around me, whereas they weren't. Conference, I believe that no one's quality or course of life should be defined by that little more than brute luck. And I am a liberal, conference, because I want to reduce or indeed eliminate the role that luck plays in shaping people's courses and qualities of life. And for me, conference, the reason I'm a Liberal Democrat is because that is baked into our Constitution. Freedom from life defined by luck, freedom from attachment to conformity. I've fluffed up the lines from the Constitution. Freedom from poverty, conformity, or ignorance, that's the one. But we look at some of the luck, the bad luck that children, young people right now are being subject to. Schools literally crumbling. Youth services cut to the bone. And families struggling more than many have in our lifetimes. And there's so many folks up and down the country that in your communities, I know you know all about, who are struggling, who are having their freedom and their liberties constricted by the inequality that's plaguing our society. But the Liberal Democrats are offering something different. The Liberal Democrats are the only party, in my view, that are offering the innovation and the compassion and the solutions to tackle these issues head on. And what we're doing here at conference, what's happening in this room, all the fringes, is a classic example of that breath of fresh air that we're breathing into British politics. But I'm proud to be a Liberal Democrat because we are campaigning on the issues that matter. We're campaigning on the cost of living. We were the first party to demand a windfall tax that the other parties have since somewhat adopted. And in Eastbourne, we were the first town in the UK to declare a cost of living emergency, to unlock emergency support for those who need it most. I'm proud to be a Liberal Democrat because we're leading the charge when it comes to campaigning to fix the NHS. Remember Boris Johnson made that pledge? 40 new hospitals across our country. One of them was meant to be in Eastbourne, and we have seen no sign of it whatsoever. I've been in meetings with our Conservative MP who has tried to redefine what a new hospital is. It might be a new wing, it might be a paint job, it might be anything but a brand new hospital, and that is never their fault. Rubbish, conference. What's also rubbish is what's being dumped into the sea and our rivers across the country. And I'm proud that the Liberal Democrats are fighting to stop the sewage scandal. We've got 94 gorgeous beaches, I'm sure that's more than Bournemouth, across Eastbourne. Yet we've got the water companies pumping sewage onto them week after week, month after month, and it's not good enough. But conference, we're calling for a sewage tax to show them who's boss. We're calling for a ban on bonuses for those water company fat cats that are taking our seas, our rivers, our lakes for granted. And I can share with you today, conference, that I am going a step further. Conference, I can say that I have approached lawyers to see if we can address this through the courts system. I want to drag Southern Water through our court system because if the government won't hold them to account, then maybe our justice system can. Watch this space. And look at where all of that campaigning is getting us. We've had incredible by-election wins across the country. We have magnificent local election results earlier this year. Ed even got to appear on Loose Women, which is a career aspiration of mine one day. We are doing so well. We're cutting through. And I want to tell you a little bit about what we're doing in our patch in Sussex. In Eastbourne, we won 70% of the seats on the council earlier this year. Next door in Lewis, James McCleary and his team abolished the Conservatives from the council there altogether. And in Wealdon, the team are now leading the council, having taken control of it away from the Conservatives. But I can tell you my favourite result was a county council by-election in the ward of Meads in Eastbourne. And everyone said, you can never win it. Meads has been Tory since forever. Well, folks, we won it. And not only did we win it, but Professor Tim Bale, the prominent political science professor who lives in Eastbourne, said, if you know Meads like I know Meads, you know that this is equivalent to an asteroid hitting the planet and destroying all life on Earth. Quote. We're soaring, but we've got to go even higher. We've got to keep on going. The general election is getting closer by the day. But the Tories, they have the money. Although we have the team, we have the energy, they have the cash, and we've got to step up to the plate to overcome the riches that they're going to pour into all of our seats across the country. And so I thought I would share some lessons from my work combating gangs in the East End of London to try to combat the cabal that is the modern Conservative Party. And one is this principle that we use called Relentless Intervention. This is the principle to describe our outreach, going and finding gang members and trying to bring them to the light, trying to bring them into the support that we were offering. And it involved going back to where they hang out again and again and again. Even if we were turned away, even if they didn't want to have anything to do with us, we needed to make sure that those folks knew that when they needed us, we were going to be there. And as Liberal Democrats, we must do exactly the same. We're already doing it in so many of our wards and our seats across the country, but we must go into every corner of our communities. We must relentlessly intervene in our Tory wards as well, those hardcore areas we cannot leave anybody behind. Because trust me, conference, those folks will see and they will come to us. Another lesson from my work as a gangs worker is around credible messengers. Now, I wasn't always the best person to go and do street outreach, to find people, to bring them into the support that we were offering. I needed to find other people who were more credible, who could pass that message on. And barbers became a key ally. They often knew our young people better than anybody else in the community, and we're seeing the great stuff that they were involved in. And so we need to be credible messengers across the country too, and I'll explain how we've done that in Eastbourne in a particular way. So we want to improve our nighttime economy in Eastbourne, and we wanted a particular individual to help us to do just that. And so earlier this year, we recruited as a councillor the former bassist in the Kooks, who is leading the charge to improve Eastbourne's nighttime economy. What a credible messenger that is. But how do we apply that practically to what we're doing in our campaigning work across the country? Well, we need to diversify our teams even more. We need to make sure that as Liberal Democrats, whether activists or councillors or MPs, candidates, that we look like and reflect the experiences and the interests and the identities of all those across our country. And we have incredible groups within the Liberal Democrats, whether that's the Campaign for Gender Balance, whether that's the Campaign for Race Equality, or the Racial Diversity Campaign. The list goes on. We have so many great people and resources and groups that can help us to do that in our party. And we must not give up on that effort to diversify so that we are credible messengers of liberalism 10 times over. Folks, these guys, remember, this is where we started. We've got to get them out. We need something different. I'm now on slide number 29. I've been trying to offer something different in that presentation style that I mentioned, the Pecha Kucha earlier on. But through our campaigning up and down the country, we've got to continue to offer that. And we've got to start, folks, in mid-Bedfordshire, where we've got to win that by-election and get Emma Holland-Lindsay elected. Final image back to Eastbourne. It is an honour, one and all, to have been able to speak to you and share some of my experiences and the story of my liberalism. It says a lot about Eastbourne, about our party, and about liberalism when a young, brown, gay man from Hampden Park, the site of the busiest food bank in the country, can stand before you as, with lots of work, Eastbourne's next Liberal Democrat MP. Thank you, thank you, thank you.